Yeah, Reddick was founded in 1981 by Paul Shipman and Gordon Balker. They worked for Paul Shipman worked for the St. Michel Winery at the time, and in market research. And he got together with his partner Gordon Balker, who ran a advertising agency in Seattle. And then, lo and behold, they started a brewery. They ended up with about 15 investors, original investors in Seattle, and raised enough capital to build a small brewery in Ballard, Washington.
You know, a brewer can make all sorts of wacky brews. It's the consumer that's going to decide what they like and don't. And if we hit on one that's a real home run in either one of the breweries, absolutely, that's the number1 candidate to expand nationally. Sunrise was an example. It started off as a very small brand. Now it's our summer seasonal. Blonde Ale we've done, that was expanded. So it all depends. But if the consumers really respond, you bet, we'll take it further. This is our mash tun. It's where the whole process starts. But as we mash it in, we bring the grain down through this chute here and adding the water to it, and then running it up through all the various different temperatures to do the starch conversions into sugars. This is a giant blender, if you will. It's a very gentle blender, but it's mixing it up. The impeller down at the bottom is turning it over to keep the temperatures really consistent, so that we get those conversions of all those starches into sugars that ultimately we will putting into the product. Depending on what temperatures you're taking it to, you're generating different kinds of sugars. If I make very simple sugars, the yeast are later on in the fermentation process can convert that all into alcohol. If I make more complex sugars, the yeast can't metabolize that, and those sugars are going to stay in the product all the way through to the end, and that's what gives you the mouthfeel, the body in a beer. So what we do in the mash tun totally drives what the flavor profile of that beer is going to be 3 weeks down the road. It's fairly bright, and this is work. This is beer before it becomes beer. All we're going to do with this is boil it to add the hops, and then send it down to the fermenters, and the yeast will be consuming the sugar in this and converting it into alcohol. So right now you can drink this. In Europe, a lot of breweries actually bottle this, and they sell it as a kid's drink. It's unfermented beer. There's a bunch of the Danish breweries do that. So it's very, very sweet, very malty, and at this stage, because we haven't added the hops, there's no bitterness to it at all. All right, well, welcome to the brewhouse control room. Basically, from in here, the brewers can monitor the fermentations down in the fermentation cellars, and they can also watch the brew process. Now, implemented this control system where a brewer can watch each one of the brew vessels and can look at his temperatures, his pressures, you know, whatever the criteria for that part of the process is. It's a little anal, but you can't do too much to make sure the brew is right. So one of the key things when you're bottling a beer, you can make a world-class beer, but if you put it in a bottle and don't do it well, that beer is going to be ruined within a couple of weeks. It'll be oxidized, it'll be stale. So one of the big things that we're doing is constantly doing a bottle run using a test setup like this to measure the oxygen content in the bottle. And we do it again and again and again over the course of the run to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to keep that air out of those bottles. And then we'll log it here, and when we put a freshness date on the bottle, that's partly to make sure that the consumers know when it was produced, when it's good too, but it also gives us a traceability to come back, and if there ever were a problem, that we can identify it and improve on it. So these are kind of fun. We do a cask program up in the pub. And cask beer is beer that, while it's still just finishing fermentation, we actually put it into the barrel and let it finish the fermentation, then we dry hop it here. But these are handmade here in Portsmouth out of local New England oak, and then we put the beer in it. But every Wednesday, we put a new cask beer on up in the pub. The only place you get it is here, and these are just some of them. So we keep a rotating stock on the cask. Sorry.
I think Red Hook has been a brewery that has been the forefronter of the craft revolution in the United States. And I think we've paved the way for a lot of other small brewers and for a lot of consumers to drink a lot of different style of beers. And we've done that breweries. We've built breweries on both coasts, which no other small brewery in the United States really has done. We're the first ones to do an IPO, which built this facility. We're the first brewery to do an align themselves with a major brewery in the United States. So we've paved the way to get craft beer and for the small brewer to get into the marketplace. And I'm really proud of that fact. You know, when I see a lot of people enjoying not only my products, but other brewers' products, and in a localized area, whether it be in New England or the Southwest or the Southeast, it's really kind of know that we had a little bit something to do with that.